I've always felt really that cooking is about the food we eat at home. And I suppose what interests me an awful lot is something that happens partly about getting older, which is you've eaten more food and you have more past to draw on. But at the same time, I think we're lucky enough to learn about food from various different cultures and have extraordinary ingredients available to us that weren't around so much when I was a child. So if you love cooking, then I think that you've really got to you can very easily fuse a lot of your traditional memories with some ingredients that some of us have only more recently discovered, and I think that makes cooking very alive, and I like that. I still feel the need, I suppose, to remind people that cooking doesn't have to be complicated. I think that people still hold on to a view that in some way a recipe is like an exam that you can pass or fail, and people get stressed about it and think that that cooking is by necessity something that's very sort of complicated and stressful. And I'm not a chef, and I have no training, and I also have actually no dexterity. If you've ever seen one of my programs, you'll see that I chop very badly and I spill things. But it doesn't matter. I mean, food is about flavour, and you can get great depth of flavour and complexity of flavour while cooking in a very simple way. And I suppose that's what I always want to talk about. And I love it because it gives me a chance to share my enthusiasms. And I do always want to. I'm a feeder, I like feeding people. And either I like feeding people, at my home and around my table, and in the same way talking to people and trying to convey why I love a particular ingredient or a particular recipe. And so for me, it's pure pleasure doing the TV.
People who perhaps don't know your history may come to this and think, oh, it's Nigella Lawson. Will it be, black truffles and beluga caviar and foie gras? But they will, of course, find out that you are, and I found this out as well, actually, that you are the queen of frozen peas.
I am indeed. It's an accolade that I am very proud of, and given to me by Nigel Slater, a food writer who I admire enormously. But I think that I have no time for snobbery about cooking and food and ingredients. When I use chicken stock, I use a chicken stock concentrate from a bottle and add water. Of course, it's fantastic when you've got time to make your own chicken stock, but people don't, and I don't every day. And when I do, I turn it into soup. I don't use, I don't keep it for every time I want a bit of stock. And I think that there's an awful lot of snobbery and sort of status anxiety that goes on in cooking, and I don't believe in that. I think you have to be very honest about how you cook and what you cook, and that's essential for me.
And you don't have to have Fortnum and Mason round the corner in order to have the ingredients to make great food.
Well, these days, you can, online is always, great. And you just have to go to, if you're lucky enough, for example, I live near, a fantastic Lebanese shop, and I get amazing ingredients, and a Turkish shop, and I get the most wonderful ingredients there that are very inspiring. And I think, and also I go to markets sometimes, where people come together and they bring all their bits and pieces. And I'm a city person, but you can always be open to ingredients from wherever. And I don't think it's about. I don't think it should be about making things hard. You know how sometimes with cooking people say, "No, this is no, this is really difficult, and these are the parts that are difficult, and this is where everyone could go wrong." And I feel like why introduce this note of stress before you start? Because actually, this is how it can all go right. You just stir things together in a saucepan and put them in the oven, and that's cooking. So I think that there's no need to do things that are very complicated, and nor should home cooking really be like shop bought or from a restaurant. You're not, perfection is not really the aim. Well, for me, it isn't anyway.
Yeah, but perfection must have been your aim at some point in your life, because up until, I guess, recently, relatively speaking, you had a pathological fear of making poached eggs.
Yes, but I did. When I say,
How do you develop that?
oh, I don't know, but it's how you get rid of it is
Yes,
the interesting
exactly,
point.
yes, quite.
But the point is, what I would say is, perfection is not something you can aim for because it cripples you and it makes you feel too daunted. But that's not to say that I'm not obsessive. When I write a recipe, I go over and over and over to get it as good as I can and as simple as I can and to make it as clear as I can. So in that sense, you could say I'm a perfectionist. But I also, when I cook, I realise that there's a flow and the kitchen has its own dynamic and things will turn out as they do. You have to pay attention. No, I was always frightened of poached eggs. It's always that thing. So I had a bit of a sense of shame. I should be able to poach an egg. It's meant to be simple. And I could never do it. So what I used to do, luckily I have asbestos fingers. So what I would always do is do a soft boiled egg and peel it. And anyway, I decided to confront my fear. I have always thought I was going to one day write a book called Feel the Fear and cook it anyway. But anyway, so I did, and I now poach eggs every morning and I feel liberated.
If someone takes a tea strainer and lemon away from you, though, you'll be in trouble.
No, if someone took lemon away from me anyway, I would never be
you'd
able
be in
to cook
trouble.
again.
It's one of your three key ingredients.
When I do a poached egg for myself every day, I do not put it through a tea strainer. When I do my Turkish eggs, I do then, which from program 1, then I do strain the egg whites. Just simply because, a lot of eggs get a bit, the white goes so watery, and that's what makes it go into all that fluff when you poach it. But when I do it every day, I don't. I just crack the egg into a little cup and I add lemon juice. You can add vinegar. I just prefer lemon juice, and just on the white, and then put it in a bowl, a pan of water that's only just nearly about to boil, but is not erupting. It should be calm, and then I just let it cook in that for 3 to 4 minutes. Now I know people have their different methods, and I've tried them all. That thing of creating a vortex, and as much as I love saying creating a vortex, then you can only do one egg at a time, and I don't think it's necessary. I think it's about having the water not too hot, but having the vinegar or for me the lemon juice directly on the white and not in the water makes a huge difference.
What it shows from the series at my table is just how cosmopolitan your palate is, how eclectic it is, how well-travelled it is. And it's so important, isn't it? Because it bonds people through food of different backgrounds.
And actually, I'm not enormously well-travelled, but I'm a Londoner. And
the world comes to London, it lives in London.
I'm lucky enough, ever since I've been a child, I suppose, to come across ingredients from all over the world, and also people who've cooked food from their part of the world for me. And I find that such an important experience. And I've been on book tour recently, and it's so lovely when people say what they've been cooking. And I have got one recipe, which is, I call it an Indian spiced chicken tray bake, and I was in Sheffield, and a woman there of Indian descent said, "Oh, I love that, Indian tray bake." And I said, because I never want to look like I'm claiming authenticity, and I said, well, it isn't actually Indian. It was just, I was inspired by Indian food and spices. And she said, oh no, it tastes absolutely Indian. And I felt, oh, I'm so thrilled.
Yeah,
but I think that's very important. It's that thing of to be inspired by other people's cooking, but without making claims for my own interpretation of it. But it's lovely to be inspired by different ingredients and different countries and cultures. And that, I think, is so important in the world. And to be open and to be grateful for the connection.
You've talked about food being an amazing way of bringing people together and communicating with each other. But I also wonder, from a very personal perspective, considering some of the darkest times you've had in your life, whether it be relationship-based or whether it be when you were widowed, that a kitchen becomes a very safe space.
I think a kitchen is a safe space, and I think that, if you're lucky, it is. But I think as well that there are times in life when, your mind can be racing and quite not at ease.
Yeah.
And so they're very simple tasks. Chopping something, stirring something. There's a lot of repetitive activity in in the kitchen that is a wonderful, it helps the mind decompress, because I don't think complicated cooking is relaxing, because then there's another stress going on. But in a way, if you've got to pay enough attention to, is that, have those tomatoes softened yet? Do I want to add more garlic, or is that enough? That's just enough attention that you're not in your rumination of your mind, and that you're somehow you're liberated from that, and that's what I think is so important, that you're wholly absorbed, but in an unstressful way. And I love that. And I do find there are times when I'm exhausted and I've been around and I think I'm too tired to cook, but I do something simple. And the minute I'm stirring something on the stove, I can feel that I'm calming down. And I also think that there's something wonderful about taking care of yourself and of others. I mean, I think that I've always said that cooking is an act of kindness, and that holds true whether it's to other people or to yourself.
And at risk of sounding glib, at times when you're incredibly sad, has being there and going through those motions that you've just described actually brought happiness to you? In a way, it's culinary therapy.
I'm never quite sure about whether I'd say cooking is therapy, but I think it brings, it can bring a sense of contentment, which is, a very lucky thing in life.
Absolutely. And looking at the show as well, you say that it's not scripted in any way, shape or form. You would never describe yourself as a presenter as such. You just want to...
the director says action and I start babbling.
And what I love as well, you're not scared to get a bit messy when you're eating. Well, you're not worried about that.
It's whether I'm worried about it or not. I do sometimes worry about it, but unfortunately I'm a messy eater, so what am I going to do?
Well, you do there are slight bits where you kind of walk out of shot and it slightly fades up.
I know, they're kind to me, and sometimes they're not. But, and you can see when I chop things, I'm a bit messy, and that I do worry sometimes. I mean, it is one of those things, and I do quite often grate myself during the making of a series, because, I'm grating away and looking at camera. So it's quite easy. And I'm a clumsy person, but I mean, we can only be who we are.
Absolutely. And how comfortable are you with who you are, in the sense that as a woman, and as a woman in the public eye, people will always make comments about you and about how you look. And actually, this goes across for all women. And I do a show on the BBC Asian Network, and we're often talking to Asian women who are expected to be the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect cook, all of these things. And are you conscious that what you want to put across is something that doesn't kind of back up that idea of perfection?
Look, the difficulty is television is a strange medium, because on the one hand, I think it is a great phoniness detector, and you really have to be yourself. But on the other, it is an artificial medium, and so someone does your hair, so your hair looks nice, and someone does your makeup, so you look better than you do normally. The lighting's there. Everything is, you obviously you don't make it. You don't have all the in-between bits of the clearing up and so forth. So I think you have to be aware of that. I mean, I am very good at not dwelling on or paying a great deal of attention on, what's said about me, because I think...
You'd go mad, wouldn't you?
Yes, it is difficult, and I'm quite good now at not letting it infiltrate. And in a funny way, although social media can be very cruel, it can also be a wonderful way of connecting. And what I love when I've had a book out or a TV series is that people will cook the food and post pictures of it, and I love that. So in a way, my connection is very much with readers and viewers, and I don't get. I really know, I don't really buy into all that. Maybe the certain element of the press which wants to talk about women in a particular way, whereas actually what I'm doing is sharing my food, and that's what people are doing in their homes. It's food that comes from my table, and I see it on theirs, and it's a really wonderful experience, and I love that.